So now we're going to be starting task 2. We're going to be walking through steps 1 and step 2. So we're going to be starting and opening ArcGIS Pro, creating a new project. Then you're going to be adding in the map that you created in the first task from ArcGIS Online, because you can search across ArcGIS Online and you can actually add in data and maps that you create there. So it's an interconnected ecosystem. Then in the next step, we're going to be searching for 2 different vector data sets, adding those into the ArcGIS Pro project, and then changing the symbology of those. So let's get started. So when you first open up ArcGIS Pro, it'll ask you to log in to locate a license. So this again, you can enter in your RIT ArcGIS and hit continue. So make sure you don't select this ArcGIS login. You'll want to enter in your organization's URL so you can get in the right location. So again, don't do this one. Make sure you select this bottom option and then hit continue. Then you simply put in those credentials and you can log in. Same credentials as you have for ArcGIS Online or again, anything across RIT. So as soon as ArcGIS Pro loads up, it'll give you options and show you recent projects. And in this case, we're going to just start with a blank template. And we're going to click a blank map. So you can choose a location to save your project, and you can ask it if it wants to create a folder. So in this case, I'm going to create a new folder for it. So week 1 Baldwin, and I'm going to hit OK. So make sure you start saving all of your projects for each week in one specific folder for class. It'll help make the organization of all of your content a lot easier, especially as you start downloading a lot of different files and information. So by default, ArcGIS Pro opens up and just pulls in a base map. And so the first step that we want to do is add in the map that we created in ArcGIS Online in that first part of this lab. So up here, it tells you what you're logged into. And in this drop down, you can see I'm logged into RIT. And so that's the organization I'm part of. And here I've got project, which is basically all my local things. Then there's portal, there's favorites. Portal is all of the content you have access to within ArcGIS Online. So you can see here, this should look very familiar. So here's all my week 1, week 2, the folders I've created. And if I click in this week 1, I should see the map that we just saved and created. So here's that Baldwin week 1. And if I right click, I can choose add and open. So now within this project, I'm now referencing this map that is saved up in the web, but it is now also part of this project. So I'm not creating a local copy. Nothing is getting saved to the machine besides a reference to that map and the services that are inside of it. So ArcGIS Pro is a connected desktop. So it allows you to seamlessly work with data and information that's shared as services and maps and layers that are up in the internet. And again, this ACS data, I don't own or control. Same with the FEMA flood data. The only data set that we created in that last lab or in that first part of the lab were these simple polygon outlines. So step 1 is done. I just added in this map and you can see it's open as a new tab here. I'm going to go back to this first map we have open. And now we're going to go search for and add in 2 vector data sets. So let's go to the web. And I've already put in a search, and Brian already mentioned in the video you watched prior some of the tips and tricks for searching for data. In this case, I searched for NOLA, which is short for New Orleans, open GIS data. You could also search for things like open data, GIS. These things will really help, and you can see there's probably a lot of good results for the UK, Australia, and certainly if you wanted to narrow into different regions. And with those results I already had, here's the City of New Orleans Open Data Portal. That sounds pretty promising. And a description here says downloading open data, great. Another data site from the city and GIS map search. So this looks like kind of a trick link here, countyoffice.org. I probably don't want to go there. So let's go with this first result, City of New Orleans Open Data Portal. And so coming to this site, you can see I can start searching for data. They've got a viewer right embedded here. And so I want you to find 2 different vector data sets for whatever area that you're looking for information in. And the 2 that I want to add in are related to buildings, so building footprints, and then also something simple, streets. So I'm going to search for streets and hit enter for return. And so here I can see a table for streets, street name tables, street names, and it gives me a description of the type of data this is. A table. Here is Department of Public Works projects, a feature layer. And here's what I'm looking for. Here are the road center lines for the city of New Orleans. And I could either download those or I could reference them as well. So let's click on this. And so here it says this has too many records to be able to show and draw on the web. So similar to what we've done in the other lessons, I'm holding Shift and then zooming into a part of the city to see this data. So first impression is this looks great. And I'm clicking on the layer to see what kind of information is here. So it's giving me the name. It's a local road. Perfect. So this is the data I want to pull into my Pro project. And so I can see a little cloud icon here. I want to actually go and download this data set. And a couple options, a CSV, a KML. I want to grab a shapefile. And you'll see this, and this will be regularly referenced. And this is a good data set format, pretty much a standard for getting information and getting data. And I'm going to choose my download options and get a new download with the latest data. So I downloaded my streets data set. You can see up here in the downloads, and I'm going to go and search for another data set. And this time I already mentioned I want to get buildings. And here it's popping up for me, building footprints. And this data set as well probably won't preview because it's going to be a lot of information. So I'll try to zoom in quickly to a little part of the city. So some similar options, CSV, KML, shapefile. I'm going to download this file. So nice, you can see it's starting to load up the preview here of what this looks like. This is basically a vector layer that's outlines of every single building that exists in New Orleans. And it looks like that already downloaded for me. So let's go load them into ArcGIS Pro. So what I would recommend doing first is taking those downloads you had, which are going to be zipped up folders, and then placing them into your project folder so that you don't start to lose track of all the data and everything you're downloading, because it can start to get pretty messy. And then for each of these, I'm going to right click and I'm going to unzip them. After those are unzipped, the folders will open up and you can see the content that's in here. So it looks a little messy and confusing, as Brian talked about in his description of data. So you don't need to really look at this, but this is great because it came from an authoritative source. It's got a projection file. It's got the shape file. It has the DBF, which is the table. So it looks like we're in good shape. So we could probably add this to ArcGIS Pro and hopefully it'll show up in the right location and have the data tied to it. So I'm going to close that and let's go into ArcGIS Pro and add in that data. So as I come into Pro, I'm in my blank map tab, and over on the right hand side I'm going to go back to the catalog, and instead of clicking in the portal, I'm going to click to the project. And within here, I have some drop downs that are looking at the local files and information within this project. You can see the map I've already added into the project that's referencing that ArcGIS Pro map. Then down here under folders, this is the local folder that got built out for this project. And it's already referencing the building footprints and those road center lines that we just added into the folder. And if I click the drop down for both of those, you can see there's the one file represented. And I can either right click this and add it, or I could just drag it and put it right into the map here. So I just drag the building footprints in, and I'm going to click and drag the road center lines in as well. And after that data is drawn in, it ends up getting represented and built out on the map. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom into the one area of the city which is going to be the primary spot for the study that I'm going to be working on. So this was the end of this video. So we just went through step 1 and step 2. We added in our ArcGIS Online map, and we also went and downloaded 2 different vector data sets and added them into the map.